new technology at the Portuguese Industrial Association. He was appointed by the Portuguese Prime Minister as Director General of Management Center of the Electronic Government Network, that's in Portugal. Previously, he was a Director of Tax Valley, a Science and Technology Park in Abrantes, and ICT Coordinator at the Foundation of Science and Technology, Ministry Science and Technology. He has published 5 books, 12 refereed science applications, and more than 120 refereed communications in international conferences and symposia. And with that, I'd like to invite our speaker, Professor Alexander Caldas.
Let me start by saying that it's such an introduction. I'm ashamed I don't need any further introduction. For short, I'm Alex. That's my short name and the way I'm recognized. I'm here. I'd like to start by thank you, Esri, for the warm invitation to be present here to share with you from a user perspective our experience and what we think, what we have in mind in terms of strategy with maps, with the geographic systems. So my first word is warm thank you to Esri in the person of the English entities in the Eastern Africa, but Esri globally, for the invitation to come and to share with you what we are doing and what we intend to do in these areas. Currently, I'm a director of the UN, and in UN environment, I'm responsible for the country outreach, so the delivering the 6 regional offices around the world, as well as technology and innovation. We'll have the chance to share with you what we are doing and what we intend to do in terms of technology and innovation. I'd like to focus from the very beginning what I think will be, from a UN environment perspective, the key strategic orientations in terms of the use of geographic systems. And the real value, I think, is the power of having global geospatial environmental information. Okay? The more we can provide to our customers, because we also have customers, I will stress this from the beginning, the more we can provide global geospatial environmental information. And I will try to define what we mean by this. The more we'll be fit for the coming 15 years. And I will explain why I stress 15 years. Okay? So basically, in my presentation, my thoughts, what I'd like to share with you, is how we can build this provision of a global geospatial environmental information. What could be the strategic directions we have to do to provide global geospatial information. Let me try to cut a long history very short. Let me try to put in the same picture, in the same diagram, what is the UN, what it is expected from the UN in the coming 15 years, and who are our main customers or targets when we speak of UN. So everything from the very beginning in UN in the 1940s is about 3 main pillars, and it continues to be so, and it will be so in the future. It's human rights, it's about peace and security, and it's about sustainable development. And this has been, since the 1947, the beginning of the UN system, the overall achievement of the United Nations is related with one or the combination of these 3 pillars. Okay? The same can be said for what we mean by sustainable development. So we also work based on 3 main pillars: so the economic, the social, and the environmental. Okay. And we tend to think that in our strategy in terms of the UN environment, in the coming future, we also tend to think on three main pillars: citizens, business, and policy makers, or decision makers, policy. And so everything that we will be doing in the coming years, and coming years is in a time frame of 15 years, it will be targeting either the whole UN system pillars, so human rights, peace, security, sustainable development, or it will be targeting the three pillars of sustainable development, either the economic dimension, the social dimension, or the environmental dimension. And it will be targeting one or the combination of the three main customers or customer base or targets, so citizens, business, or policy decision makers. Okay, so that's the way we tend to simplify our strategy in terms of the coming future and the orientation for the future. What do we have now going to? Well, I've walked through a very fast line in terms of provision of global geospatial environmental information. What is our agenda for the coming years? The whole thing fits in a time frame of 15 years, and I think if I ask you what would you imagine that is in the time frame of 15 years, it's the Agenda 2030 and sustainable. Okay, so everything fits into the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, the time frame of 15 years, so the Agenda 2030 and Sustainable Development. Okay. In order to provide, and for these, I think, and I will stress that's basically what I'd like to share with you, the underlying message is the power to provide world nations with integrated geospatial and statistics information on the environmental dimension of sustainable development. Okay. So it will be a key advantage for the coming future for all the UN and all countries in the world to have the integration of geospatial information with statistics and indicators on the, I'm stressing the environmental dimension for obvious reasons, but the environmental, the economic and social dimensions of the development. Okay, so I'll be focusing, my responsibility will be focused on the environmental dimension, but overall the UN will tackle the three pillars of the sustainable development. So it's not an easy target because we can more easily customize, build geospatial systems. We can easily build statistics, not so easily statistics indicators for the development of countries in the dimension. It's still a long way to go, I think, the integration of geospatial information with statistics and indicators. And I think that's exactly the nitty-gritty of the thing. So if we are able to provide the integration of geospatial information with statistics, countries will move much forward in terms of the Agenda 2030, Sustainable Development, SDGs, and so on. Okay? What we intend to do in order to comply with these is to walk in three legs, and how we are going to do it is through country outreach. Okay? So basically, we intend to deploy in the coming future, and we have started, we have it in, I would say, not in a pilot stage, it's already there, but it needs to be rolled out. So we intend to have a UNEP-Live knowledge platform, knowledge place, the single sign-on place, the entry point for knowledge on the environment. So that's our first target, our first orientation. We intend to have the linkage and the synergies between the SDG information, Sustainable Development information, and the system and the environmental information through the SDG Synergies portal or platform. And we want to provide countries, 193 countries, as much as possible with indicator reporting systems that integrate geospatial information with statistics to monitor, follow up, and review SDGs along the way. Okay. So these will be the three legs we have devised in the coming years and in the coming decades to support countries in terms of their agenda for developing. And that's the way we structure the technology in order to provide these countries the way forward. So the UNIPLI platform as the entry point for knowledge on the environment, the synergies linking information on the environment with the SDGs, sustainable development, the indicator reporting system at the country level to provide countries with follow-up and review of the indicators and geospatial information. And these are the three legs. And how we tend to do it is through country outreach. So basically we have to use the infrastructure we have. We are set up, you see in the final map, we set up with regional offices that cover the whole regions of the world, so from North America to Asia Pacific. And we have sub-regional offices, so we intend to use the network of regional infrastructure we have to deliver on these three areas. Okay? So what you see here is it will be redesigned in the coming months. But basically, we thought the best way is to have a single entry point for data, information, knowledge on the environment. Okay? And the basic idea was in the first 2 years to launch the project, UNIPLI. These will be always available on uniplive.unep.org. So it's the single entry point. And we intend to integrate everything that comes into the single entry point. So basically, over the years, we want these to become the global knowledge platform for the environment, information on the environment. Okay? And so we will have various ways and pathways to access information through the detail from the global to the regional to the country levels. We will have themes, thematics, on the environment for accessing information. We will have the synergies, the links between the environmental information and the sustainable development goals and sustainable development. Or we can simply search and have a strong search mechanism for searching the whole knowledge repository and all these. And we want from the beginning to have an integration between geospatial information and statistics of information, data statistics information. So this is the idea of the platform. What is UNEP-LIVE? So we want it to be the global knowledge platform on the environment. That's what we want it to be. But we want to focus on open access and to these environmental data knowledge, which opens the possibility to share in an open access way the information that is provided at the different levels, the country, the regional, and the global levels. We want to support the reporting because it is a fundamental need of the countries, the member states, countries all over the world to report on information on the environment. But we want to have analytical mapping, search, and visualization tools built into these. Of course, the synergies between the sustainable development and the environmental information, so the MEAs. MEA stands for the Multilateral Environmental Agreement. So over the years, in the latest 40 years, countries have been signing international agreements on how to comply with the environmental targets. And so we want these to be the platform where you find the linkage between the environmental agreements and the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Information. We'll have parts of connection with the media, social media, web intelligence, communities of practice. So, and we want all these to be integrated into a single entry point, integrated, open but single entry point as UNEP. Okay. So this is what we're building. It is already online, so you can have a grasp of what is the called version 1.0 of uniplive.unep.org. Okay, so it's online. So you have already access at the country level on country data and knowledge. So if one looks for Kenya, you'll find their data, information, statistics at the country level for all the 193 countries. Okay, so you have data at the country level. You have more detailed data analytics and data at the regional level, so with access to repositories of data at the regional level, and this is also there. And definitely we want to have, on a more thematics approach, data, for instance, on air quality, where you can compare the whole set of 193 countries in terms of air quality, how they benchmark to each other. And we have maps that on top of the base map, UN base map, you build the layers of air quality monitoring and how air quality is being delivered throughout the whole countries in the different regions. We have built a web intelligence tool to analyze how the different topics are being discussed in media, in social media. So we have a web intelligence that you can link there and find how air quality has been discussed in the different social media platforms, either online or offline. So you can map these and build the maps, locate in the maps how these interact, or find these more network structures that you have there for the way. So we have built some web intelligence tools to connect the topics on the environment, on how the social media, the communities interact with these maps. Of course, mapping is one core functionality of the platform. We're working with Esri. We're working with some other partners. We're starting now to work with Digital Globe. We work with most, of course, of the UN agencies, the Geographic Statistics Office and so on. But mapping is a core functionality of the platform. It will be continue to be a core functionality. And what we want to have, as you can see, if you select biodiversity, clean energy, food security, which have a theme that is relevant, either for the environment or sustainable development, or the combination, then you can build layers, maps, and layers on top of those maps to compare all different countries in terms of these different themes. Okay, the app is built in a way that allows the user to build a map and to export the map and to use the map for reports for whatever the user is willing to. Okay, so but mapping is definitely at the core. We intend to strengthen with Esri our partnership in terms of competence. It's an area where we have to work hard because it's fast moving. So we want to strengthen our core competence in terms of geo-reference skills, because we continue to think that this will be an area where we will need core competence, very strong core competence in the future. So not only to partner with the private partners, every companies, but also to have internal core competence in terms of mapping, visualization tools and mapping. We have all these you can test and have a look, and I would appreciate if you can comment and provide me, I will provide my email. One of my colleagues or my staff members will be glad to receive your comments in terms of ways to improve what we have already developed in terms of the platform. So in terms of charting, we also have a charting functionality in the platform where you can analyze the different statistics, indicators and whatever, at the country level, at the regional level, at the global level. Okay? So this is already done. Okay? So this closes my first point. So basically what we expect in the now and in the coming future is to strengthen UNEP as UNEP.org as the single entry point for knowledge on the environment at the global, regional and country levels. Okay? The second fundamental component of all these, and probably it's not a second component, it's an integrated component, is how we link information on the environment with the SDGs, with the Sustainable Development Goals. You know that starting September last year, in 2015, the whole UN has agreed, and this means 193 countries, signed an agreement for a 15 years time frame to comply with 267 indicators, 17 goals, and associated targets in terms of delivering sustainable development worldwide. Okay? And these, I think, is the agenda we have for 2013 and beyond, but for 2030. And the compromise is all member states, all countries in the UN will compromise to follow up, to monitor, to report on the sustainable development. It should be stressed from the beginning that we are not forcing, UN is not forcing countries to move all together in the same fashion and the same way. So the word that we use in the UN is transformation. So each country can transform its infrastructure, mechanisms, ministries, whatever, in order that it can accommodate its own policy and strategy to comply with the targets and the sustainable development. So it's not a one-way or a push into all countries to move at a fast pace. No, it's a transformational path. Each country selects and decides on the strategy to accomplish the sustainable development goals. And so that's the beauty of the thing. But the important opportunity for business partners, for the market, is that we can be assured that in the 15 years time frame, all 193 countries in the world will be working towards the accomplishment of the sustainable development. And in practice, what this means is that we have 17 goals, going from having a clean environment to eradicating poverty, eradicating hunger. So there are 17 goals, associated targets, and associated indicators. Okay, what does this mean for an opportunity for the market and for opportunity for countries? Is that the different countries can move along either the goal setting, the target setting, or the indicators, targeting specific indicators. Okay. So what we have done, and this is also working already in the platform, is that you can map the whole 17 goals, the associated targets and indicators, with the international agreed environment indicators we had established in the last 40 years. Okay. So we have in the synergies. If you go to uneplive.unep.org, you have a synergies area. If you go to synergies, you will find the association between the environmental dimension, the international agreed environmental goals of the 193 countries, and the associated SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. And what we're going to do all over across these 15 years is to support countries, to help countries to follow up, to monitor, to review, and to report on how they are progressing, either on the environmental dimension and the association of the environmental dimension with the sustainable development goals. Okay. This is a key feature of our work in the coming years. In terms of numbers, this means 17 out of 17 goals. 81 indicators are directly related with the environment. So, and from 241, there are some indicators, more indicators for 267, but 81 indicators are directly related with the environment. And UNEP, the UN Environment, is custodian agency for 31 of these global indicators. So in every year, we are responsible for providing a report at the global level to the UN Secretary General on 31 indicators on the environment. And each country will be reporting to UN Environment on how they are performing in terms of the environment dimension of sustainable development. Okay, and that's the way it's going to work. As you could see, there are links between sustainable development and the environmental agreements that have been signed in the past. And we will be mapping and crossing all these data and information and the synergies between the environment information and sustainable development information. Okay, I won't get into the details of these, but this means a huge opportunity in terms of work to be done, in terms of the indicators, in terms of statistics, in terms of the quality of the indicators, the reporting of the indicators, and so on. Basically, there's still work to be done in terms of the statistics, there are three kinds of indicators: Tier 1 indicators, Tier 2, and Tier 3. Basically, to put it simply, Tier 1 indicators means that we already have the data. Tier 2 indicators, we don't have the data, but we can easily collect the data. Tier 3 indicators, we still don't know. We have to develop methodologies to collect the data. So basically, this synthesizes the three different types of indicators. And if you map these all over the 31 and 80 indicators related with the environment, then you have a huge task to be done in the coming future. What is the challenge? And I go back to my initial point. The challenge is for each and every indicator, we want to have geospatial information. So we want, particularly in terms of the environment, it's critical to connect and to map always the indicators and statistics with the geospatial location. Okay? And so this is a key strategy to provide integrated global geospatial statistics information for countries, regions, and the global world. Okay? And I think this is a challenge. We are eager to work with Esri, with other companies, in order that we can really have, for the benefit of the countries, 193 countries, the integration between the geospatial information with the statistics information. This is a map of the synergies, as you can see. So we have the SDGs on one side, we have the environmental agreements on the other, and we can see that from different dimensions, international agreed environmental agreements are related with the SDGs and the other way around. Okay? And we have mapped these at the level of the indicators. So you have here the goals for the sustainable development, you have here the targets, and you have here the indicators, and you have the indicators on the environmental agreements, and you have the targets, goals at the environmental agreements. So we have done this work, this grassroots work, in terms of how we can move, our country can move from an environmental agreement to sustainable development, and from an agreed goal of the sustainable development to the environmental indicators. Okay? Let me now move to the third leg that we have devised for doing this. One thing is to report on the global level, or the regional level. A different thing is to report at the country level. And one thing is for sure, in 20-something years I've experienced, when one goes to work with a country, it doesn't matter how important is the policy at the global level, but one needs to fit and to customize to the country needs, what the country needs. If I was born in Mozambique, if I'm in Mozambique, the picture is completely different if I am in Angola, in Mauritius, in Kenya, or if I am in any other country in the other side of the world, Asia Pacific. And what it really matters for a country is the needs and priorities of the country. It doesn't matter if we are to accomplish the SDGs and whatever. Okay? So what we have tried to devise tools, technology, for, we call it indicator reporting system, in order that a country can customize its own needs and priorities for the specific country. Okay? So we call it IRIS, the Indicator Reporting Information System. This is a scheme of how the IRIS at the country level connects with SDGs and UNEP Live altogether. So it's our architecture for how, from the level of the reporting at the country level, we can move to the SDGs and to UNEP Live altogether, to the single entry point. So, and here is also, we have already developed IRIS in the latest 2.5 years. So we have IRIS now to be rolled out in a number of countries, not only in Africa. We have just had some meetings with the seeds to roll out in some of the small islands in Africa. We have rollouts expected in about 20 countries, Europe, Asia Pacific, and Africa. And we have 30 countries all over the world, including Latin America, to test the rollout of IRIS and the indicator reporting system at the country level. So we'll be rolling out these in the coming 2 years for 50 countries at least. And this will be the first stage of the rollout of the IRIS, in order that at the country level, countries can have a reporting system for the environment and sustainable development. what is the reporting system? So basically we have customized in a way that the reporting obligations of a country can be defined. It can define the goals, the targets and indicators for the country that wants to prioritize, and it can build a custom system, a custom iris for Kenya, a custom iris for Mauritius, Seychelles, Portugal, whatever. The reporting system has mapping functionalities, charting functionalities, everything that I was expressing before. We have built it in a way that multiple data sources, it doesn't really matter the data source, even Excel files, databases, all kinds of databases, in order to be flexible for the country to integrate with different data sources. So we've got some screenshots. I'm available, and my teams will be available if any one of you would like to have a more in-depth technical analysis of the reporting system that is defined. Each reporting, we can build charts based on indicators, maps. So everything that you have seen on UNEP Live, we have mapped that at the reporting level for the countries. And so we have the base maps and the layers on top of the base maps, and we have the charting functionalities for each indicator that is built. And then the country can automatically build a report based on the data that it has there. So there are reporting functionalities in the system that allows the country, having defined the goals, the targets and indicators, having the maps and the charts, a country can immediately produce a report. There are templates for reporting, and the country can produce a report in order that every 3 months, every 6 months, every year, it can report on the status of the indicators. So this is an example of a report. And then we have built a kind of a dashboard in order that high-level decision makers can look at the data on a dashboard level and analyze how the thing is moving in terms of the whole thing. So, and these are the three legs that we intend to continue to strengthen in the coming years. So basically, the entry point through UNEP Live as a global knowledge platform, the mapping, reporting, follow-up on the SDGs, and now the environmental agreements linked with the SDGs, and finally, to provide countries with a tool and reporting system that allows them to link all this together at the country level. How we intend to do this? So we have a network of, we're distributed in terms of regional offices. So we have main regional offices based in Panama for Latin America and Caribbean. We have a regional office in Washington for North America. We have in Nairobi here for all Africa. We have in Geneva for Europe and Central Europe. We have in Bangkok for Asia Pacific, and in Manama for West Asia. And then we have a number of sub-regional offices, as you can see. So we have a quite detailed network of offices spread all over the world. So the way we intend is to deliver the technologies I was referring back through the country outreach, through the regional offices. There's no way we could do these at the global level, sitting in Nairobi and looking at the deployment or rollout of these. So that the only way is to use the intelligence we have in the regional offices and sub-regional offices in order that we can not only gather the needs and priorities of the countries, but also provide the services to the countries at the country level. Okay? So the way forward is to use our regional setup in order to deliver on the three legs that I was referring to for the monitoring and reporting of these. And the whole intent of these, you have here my contact, my email contact. The whole intent of these, again, and to close up, is to provide world nations, and in terms of UN, we tend to speak on 193 member states of the United Nations, to provide integrated geospatial and statistics information on the environmental dimension of sustainable development. So in that simple phrase, we have our agenda for the coming 15 years, at least 15 years. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Alex. Esri is truly honored to be a part of this initiative you're taking to build a knowledge repository. So, if there are any comments or reactions or questions for Alex? Any questions?
Thank you very much for your impressive presentation. My name is Babu Kashma. Sorry. Do you have another mic? My question is, how do you ensure the quality of the data which are coming from the different countries? I can imagine the countries are on different levels when it comes to reporting on statistics and indicators. So I can imagine some countries have high quality data, other countries have maybe not so high quality data. How do you ensure the quality?
Thank you. It's a very good question, and it's a big problem. So, what we have been devising since the design of the SDGs and all the indicators and all the framework, there is this division between the three type 1, type 2, and type 3 tire indicators, and this also provides immediately a first filter for the different kinds of information we can receive. Type 1 indicators are easily for most of the 193 countries because the methodology, the statistics office at the country level, the experience, the collection of data, the data itself, in most cases, is already there. Or if it is not there, is easily available, it will be collected easily. And so countries, I would say most 193 countries, with exceptions, will have easy way because everything is set up for the provision of this kind of data. For the type 2, tier 2 indicators, there's a wide discrepancy between countries, and even within countries, different models, different coordination mechanisms, different entities, a whole bunch of different ways of doing it. So the methods for the collection of data are well defined. So there's no doubt that data on water quality in oceans is well defined how the country should collect these data because the methodology is there, is stable, is well defined, but the data is still not there. So different countries will have different ways to collect the data, to access the data, to report the data. Okay? This is type 2 kinds of indicators or information. Type 3 is even worse because type 3 indicators, let's say from the 240, 267 altogether, so indicators, you have at least 60 of them, 60, that are still not well defined in terms of methodology to collect the data, information. And the work that has been done, is being done, it will be done in the coming 2-3 years at least, is to agree on the whole UN system and the whole framework, to agree on the exact methodology to collect and to provide these data. Okay? So these around 60 type 3 indicators, the whole system is still working towards the definition of the methodology and agreement on the methodology for the collection, the data and analysis of the indicators. Okay? So, and this provides you an idea of the 3 different segments, 3 different kinds of indicators. What we can assure is that all this work is done through the coordination of the UN Statistics Office, so that there's a coordinating body, which is the UN Statistics Office, and there is no possibility that one country report one kind of data in one way and the other in another, because the whole system is being coordinated at the level of the UN Statistics Office. And then within each constituency agency, we are custodians for the environment. So we are responsible for 31 indicators. And on those 31 indicators, we have the obligation to report on the exact methodology, reporting, collection, and data analysis. And every year, as the time goes by, we'll have the obligation to report on a year basis to report to the global level. Okay? So the same happens for UNESCO on data on education and science. The same happens for the World Food Programme, for all the different UN agencies that work on this. Okay? So each UN agency will have a custodianship for the quality and validation of the quality of the data. When we have an indicator, we know exactly what is the way to collect, to analyze, and report on this kind of data. At least each one of the 31 indicators we have with us. And we know if the indicator is Tier 1, Tier 2, or Tier 3, and we are working, to give an example, only the UN environment, we're working on 6 indicators to provide the methodology. Because they are Tier 3 indicators, we still don't have the methodology, still working on the methodology to collect the best data. Then we will allow countries to, given the methodology, the agreed framework, the agreed method for collection, we will allow countries to be different. So basically, if a country is not able to report yet, it will have to prepare to build capacity in order it can report later. Okay? So there's no need to say that all countries at the same time need to report on a specific indicator. But the collection, the methodology, the data validation, it will be there. It will go through the custodian agency, and then through the custodian agency to the UN Statistics Office. Okay? And we hope, let's be fair, we have to test all these working. And in 5 years' time, we can say, no, this definitely is not working. It's the wrong way to go, etc. Or we have to say, no, as we have already witnessed, things are moving on. We have collected Tier 1 indicators and Tier 2 indicators, and we are moving well in the Tier 3 indicators. Most countries are progressing very well, some countries are not, so we have to correct things. So it's usual business on that. But the system is in place, and the strategic orientation is given, and I think the building blocks.
Thank you. Data will be coming from different sources, from different countries. I'd like to ask about the interoperability of the standard, the data. So, because of the fact that it will be coming from different countries.
That's easy. That's easy. There is a standard for interoperability of statistical information. So what the UN will do, the UN Statistical Office, and we have been given an indication to follow up using that. So we'll be using is based on XML, so there is already a defined agreed standard for the interoperability of statistical information. So we'll be using this standard. I can provide you that details by email, but the standard is an ISO standard. So it's been defined as a national grid standard. And so what we recommend is countries at the country level to use the interoperability standard for the exchange of statistical information in order that then at the regional and global level all these can work together in terms of interoperability. So but based on using XML, so the scheme and the standard is defined, so the way forward is to use this standard as the interoperability standard for the interchange of statistical information. And the same goes, for instance, we are adapting, we just done that, I've noticed that in the next 3 months, we will include the functionality in IRIS to import and export based on the standard. So even if the country works on a database format, it can use the database that is in the Ministry of Environment, the database in the National Statistical Office, and then it can import all the data to the IRIS, and then IRIS will convert to the standard, and then it can interoperable the standard with the statistical standard for interchange of information. Okay, so this has been technically accomplished. Okay, so they hopefully all 193 countries will be using the statistical standard for interchange of information for the interoperability of data in terms of statistics. What I'm not quite sure, and it's a good point, and I think it's a good opportunity for a business, is if the integration of the geospatial with the statistics, if it has already a defined standard. I'm not quite sure. Okay, so in terms of the integration of components of geospatial within the standard, so this is, I think, an opportunity. So, but for the statistics and indicators, it's clear it's there. Even for some kind of mapping, but the full mapping, I'm not sure. But for the base statistics and indicators, the standard is there, the interoperability is assured.